Welcome to this little impromptu makeover. I was scouring around the charity shops earlier, or Goodwill as it would be in America, and I found this lady. She's on a proper granite base, metal rod, and I think the top part is resin made to look like reconstituted stone, or in the old language, concrete, but it is resin. And I thought she'd look very nice if we tried to give her a makeover. And what we're going to do for that is to try and replicate a copper patina. So the first step is going to be coating her in copper. Just put some behind the back just to rest her against. And I'm going to be using a copper furniture paint, ready available, but you can use any copper paint you like. So let's begin. Make sure we get into all the cracks and grooves. Oh, I mean, she's looking much smarter already. May need 2 coats. It may be sufficient with 1 because we're going to be layering it up. The first layer is the metallic copper, and then we'll be putting a layer of acrylic paint, and then we shall be going back in with some pearlescent copper to do some final highlights on the top, and hopefully it should look much tidier, much smarter than it was. And because I got her from a charity shop, she wasn't expensive, so I'm not fretting about what may or may not happen. It's going to be an experimentation. See what we can achieve. See if we can get it to look like it's made of copper, but it's been dug up in some archaeological dig on Adrian's wall. In which case it will be worth an absolute fortune. But we can live in hope. Look at that already, catching the light. Make sure I get into all those nooks and crannies around her facial features. Away and start working on the face. I think she's actually a vast improvement already, and we've done very little. Amazing what you can pick up if you scout around and use a little bit of imagination. This Paintalot, so we're doing a commission. She got a commission for quite a large painting, so she's been otherwise occupied, which gives me time to mooch around the shops, see what I could come up with. Hopefully we can keep you entertained for a short while. I always find with pieces like this, if you keep turning it round, because it's amazing how you think you've got everything, and then when you turn it around to a different angle, there's a bit you can see that you've just totally missed. I don't think it will matter if we miss the tiniest bits, because when we get the patina finish on, you won't really spot any small gaps, though we will try and get it all covered. Otherwise OCD will kick in and I'll be forever staring at it, wondering where I went wrong. I'm going to avoid the temptation to paint certain parts in a different colour, because I think it would look better and more authentic, more faux patinaed if it was all one colour. Obviously we'll try and take into account that there'll be parts that perhaps would be more rubbed than others. We'll try and achieve that when we put the patina on. For some reason people have a habit over the centuries of rubbing their noses, feet, toes, bosoms of various statues to bring them look. I wonder if it ever has. Certainly rubbing toes and bosoms and things never brought me much luck, but you know, it was a first. Right, I think that's pretty much most of the head. We'll move around the back, I think. Oh no, look, it's a bit there. It's a case of brushing some and dabbing others. And then looking fairly uniform there. Move around the back. That should be relatively easy to do. It's getting quite heavy because it is actually a genuine lump of granite on the bottom. So it is quite heavy. I could bore you with the composition and chemical makeup of granite, but I wouldn't want to bore you to tears. Suffice it to say it's igneous rock. So it's formed from molten lava under pressure. There we go. Let's give that one final spin round. See if we can see any bits. Just give a touch there. Oops. It's looking uniform and already, I think, it's looking good. Right, we should leave that to dry and then you can rejoin me later for the next stage. Bye! Well, welcome back. There's the lady in all her glory. That's one coat. It's had 2 hours to dry. I'm quite happy with that finish so far, given that we're going to put some more layers on top. So we'll progress from there. The next thing we need to do is to create some sort of coppery verdigris antique patina. Most of the patinas on copper, the verdigris is a sort of turquoisey colour, so we'll be using that. I'm going to lighten it up a little with some titanium white, some fluid titanium white, because we need to put it on let it pool in the nooks and crannies, but wipe it off the top surfaces so we can see the copper, and we can add a third layer later. So I'll just mix up some turquoise with a bit of titanium white, and we'll see what it looks like. I don't think we need masses and masses of paint, but we'll make sure we've got enough. Let's see what that looks like. Should have bought a brush for mixing. I'll be back in a second, bear with. I've always found it's very difficult to put paint on without a brush. Though of course there is all the mess of getting paint on, but in this instance I think that's a nice light colour. I think that will, I'm more than happy with that. So now we're going to brush on where the nooks and crannies are and let it pool in the bottom, and then we're going to be wiping off the tops. On the flatter surfaces like a neck and the back, we'll probably be sponging some on because we don't want to get too much on there, but we do want to get some. So here we go, let's try in here, get some in them. Get some in there. And then we'll get some, we'll try kitchen towel first and try and get some of that off and let it get into those. There we go. It's looking. Yeah, I think maybe if I dampen a piece of kitchen roll, maybe we can get some more off. We don't want too much, but we do want it to sit in the dips and hollows. There we go. Let's just dampen that down. And there, that's looking good. There you go, you can see that it's gone into all the little bits. It's looking good. Right, let's continue with that because I'm quite liking this effect. Try around that side. Make sure I've got plenty in the dips and hollows. It's getting a bit used up, that page there. Well, we'll just dampen another one. Nobody said, oh, it wasn't messy. I think that's looking good. Alright, let's stand her up a bit now, and where should we go? Let's start with a little bun, lady bun at the back. Let's dab it in, get it in now, because I want it at the bottom of the piece rather than sitting on the top, because that's where it would form, because it would rub off through natural handling and cleaning and polishing over the years, all the time it's been buried in the ground. He says, fantasizing a little. There we go. Right, let's continue along the ways. Continue to push it all into the bottom. Don't want to do too large an area because I do want to make sure that I'm wiping it off before it dries. Right, have a go at cleaning that off, I think, before we get too carried away. Of course, you can always use a cotton cloth for this, or maybe a bitten down, watered, damped down shop cloth may work. But at the moment, this is what I've got to hand, so I'm going to continue with that until we get that lovely, lovely looking patina in there. We don't mind that it's over the rest of the copper, which is dulled it down a little, because, as I say, there is a third layer to go on. But I think that's looking fairly natural. I mean, not if you went to the hairdressers, of course. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily ask for this colour. There we go. Right. Let's go around the face. Until I'm concentrating, because I can't talk at the same time. I can't multitask. Miss Paintalot makes it look very easy. She can paint, talk, laugh, mix paint, and many other things besides at the same time. So being as this is probably my first ever time this side of the camera, I'm sure things may get better, or I may get voted off. Just need a bit more on there, because I do want, I don't mind some across the tops and to dull down the copper. Right, I think that's all the wrinkly bits, shall we say. Just go back over there. Get the top of those shoulders. Reasonably happy so far. We'll try perhaps a little bit of sponging around these flatter areas, see what that comes out like. Don't want to put too much on, and because it is flatter, see there isn't areas for it to sink into, but there are nicks and dinks and little bits which will pick some up. But as I say, I don't want to put too much on, and then only have to wipe it off. So we'll do a bit of sponging. It's just a little bit of natural sponge. There we go. And then use my existing cloth just to even it out, rub it into the things. There we go, look at that. Marvellous. I do say so myself. Because of course you can't, because you can't actually reply to me. But I hope that's what you'd be saying. So the beauty of this type of effect is you can just keep working, doing a little bit more until you're entirely happy. But I think part of the secret is knowing when to stop. But you certainly don't want to stop too soon. That's it. A bit more sponging around this neck area. So you want to see the copper showing through from underneath, but because we're putting 3 layers on, we want it to be there but not to be the prominent feature. A bit like fake tan, this really. Give her a green fake tan. That's it. Right, now we'll go back to the brush because we want to really get into these. Let's poke her eyes out, upper nostrils, into her mouth. They are most attractive. Got a turquoise face pack. That's it. Right. Cloths back and just wipe down from the top without putting any real pressure on. So we want to maintain it in those areas. Just wipe her nose a little. Polish up her chin because people would probably have rubbed that. Just keep going until you're happy. Looks a bit green around the mouth, green around the gills. A bit too much so, I would say. Look at her on the camera and see what she's looking like. I think that's just a bit there. Looks a bit. Just get a bit more into the bottom of the valleys. That's good. That's good. Let's fill in a few more of these valleys in because this paint will darken down as well, and there is a layer going on top. So we do want to make sure that we get sufficient in that. If you have your cloth too damp or you press too hard, you'll fetch too much of it out. So, and like me, you'll be going back over it just to reinstate some of the areas that perhaps I've done that. I think that's probably just a bit on the top of it. As usual, I've probably been a little tentative to start with, but it's not a bad thing because I can always go back in and put some more in. Let's see, this is a little bit of an experiment, so trying it for the first time. Did you imagine I didn't have rack of these ladies sitting around to practice on, so you're seeing it as it happens, as we ad lib a little. Right, anywhere else you can see that looks a bit. I think we'll say that that's probably done. Let's just get a bit in there. A bit there. Yeah. Bit of paper. Getting quite saturated. I'll have turquoise nail varnish for the week. And this week it was supposed to be magenta. Let's get some into there, I think. It's probably the one area that would probably catch a lot of dust and dirt, and which would enhance the verdigris effect, I think, when you get some dirt and grime. There we go, just filled in that area there, because looking from the top, as you can see, it's like a little catchment area, so there would have been years of dirt and grime catching in there, which would have hastened the verdigris. I'm going to just take an old cloth that I've got on Miss Paintalot's, again, don't tell her, and just give it a little bit of a clean up. That's better. A little bit of a wipe over, just to make sure we're looking good, looking at our best. Back probably do with a bit more, I think. Let's use up what paint I've got. Get it on, get it off. Let's bring the back in a bit more in line with the front, I think. And look at that. That's looking mighty fine. We'll let that, oh, not sure I've done those little square bits on the end of her arms. Well, where her arms would have been. She's a bit armless. There we go. I'm happy with that now. I'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and see what she looks like, see whether we need to do any more, and then move on to part 3. I'll see you soon. Bye. Right, welcome back to part 3. Lady's looking very fine with a copper undercoat, the turquoise patina. That's now fully dry, so it's on to part 3. Now she looks fine as she is, and you could happily leave it like that. But what we're going to do is to put some highlights on with some, I'm going to be using golden fluid acrylic iridescent copper fine, and the fluid acrylics in golden are quite, as the name implies, fluid. They're not like inks, because that's called eye flow. They're sort of a normal acrylic paint, but looser, that you can put on with a brush, or I'm going to put it on, I think, probably with my finger. So we'll give that a bit of a shake up. And what we're going to try and do is just catch some of the highlights, the really raised parts, just to try and bring them to life a bit more. Just going to put a little bit on my finger and just try and rub it over some of the eye spots. I'm not sure you'll be able to see that, but I'll lift it up in a second. There we go. Let's just have a look at that. Can you see that? That's hopefully going to really bring this to life. Get into all those folds, all the really high points. You could try this with a cloth. I wouldn't recommend a brush, but you could try it with a cloth. But I just think with your finger, you get a bit of a feel for it. You know, your finger's not going to sink down into the dips and hollows. It's probably just going to stay on top of the really high bits, and you can feel where they are. So just move around that way a bit so I can just get my finger. Hopefully you can see what's happening, and I can get my finger into some of these little folds and points. I mean, if you're really worried about it, it's only acrylic paint and it's in very small amounts, but you could wear a glove if you were worried about these things or a little allergic or anything. That's it. And the idea is not to get too much on your finger, because then you can't go too far wrong. It's looking really very nice. Is there any bits I think I could see? Maybe just a little bit in there. When you're starting out, probably less is more. Get used to the feel of it. We can always go round again. I mean, this is looking quite nice. It dries very quickly because it's very thin amounts. I mean, we're almost sort of copper leaf in it, really, with the paint. I mean, obviously you could achieve this effect on virtually anything, really, that you know, we've got on a lady, but if you had a statuette of a resin model of a horse or any other animal, you could make it have a nice coppery effect. If you were to do a multimedia painting, you could use some structural mediums first and create a bit of texture on your canvas. Anything that's got raised points and dips and marks, you could probably apply this technique to. I think that's looking very nice for a dress, a toga, a gown, whatever it would happen to be. Let's go around the back. Put your face down, dear, just so people can see what's occurring. There we go, just try and catch all the eye points of the lady bun. There we go. That's that part. If you have a look, that's looking nice and highlighted. Now we'll move on to a bonnet, which is a hair, of course. Once you've done a few, you start to get the feel of the pressure that you need and the amount of the paint that you need on your finger. As I say, big fat finger can't fall into the troughs, so it does make it slightly more foolproof, which, you know, I'm proving. It's proof even against this fool. So next time you're out and about in your charity shops or your Goodwill shops, keep an eye out for things that you could have a practice on. And it's been relatively low cost. She didn't cost very much. We've only used three paints. Well, four actually, because I did a little bit of white to the turquoise. But you don't need to do that really if you don't want to. So we'd have the copper metallic, which was a furniture paint, but any copper metallic paint will do as the undercoat. Then we use some turquoise to get into all the dips and hollows, and now we're using a bit of golden fluid acrylic iridescent copper just to really make the eye points sing and give us a good contrast to the darker copper underneath and the turquoise verdigris. Obviously you could, if you wished, use a bronze metallic paint if you wanted to go for a more bronzed look. I mean, bronze tends to have a sort of a browny appearance, and then when it's been handled and rubbed, you get a sort of a more coppery showing through. So you just I wouldn't use turquoise with bronze in particular because it's more of a coppery verdigris. I think if you put bronze underneath and then use some dark umbery brown type colour just to fill them in, and then use just a copper, but perhaps a slightly the darker copper, just to pick up some highlights, because bronze does tend to have a bit of a coppery look when it's been rubbed. Right, I think we're getting somewhere now. I think that's pretty much most of the hair and head done. I think we've just got to look at a face. The back's quite plain, so I don't really need any on there. I might just put some on the straps that are coming round. I think I've probably just missed them. There we go. Yeah, I don't think there's no sort of highlights on the back. There are some, I should call them casting marks for want of a bit. Just use whatever's left on my finger just to give them a rub over, and it'll just pick up a little bit of that highlight colour and just bring them just to life a little. Actually, just cleaning my finger off, which is also giving it that little bit of contrast on the back. Looks quite nice, and that just leaves a face to do. Right, let's have a look at your face, my dear. Let's get some of those little ears. Right, let's lay you down for this so I can. Two hands, could do with an extra hand some times. Let's just try and catch that mouth. Try and catch the lips. That's it, I think. Just a very tiny little bit on the end of her nose where she would have probably been rubbed as she's been polished over the, I would say decades, but she's probably about as old as a loaf of bread. But when we finish with her, she looks like she's been around for a while. Right, now on this I might just get a little cotton bud just so I can get in the eyes. So just bear with me a second. As I pointed out, my big dodgy finger can't get into there, so I'm just going to use a little normal sort of cotton bud, get a little bit on there, and just try and get in and just highlight around the eyes. Just put it up like that, you might be able to see better. Just getting in there. Use one end with it on and using the other end just to take it off. How's that looking? It's not too bad. Get in there. Get it well rubbed in. And the other side. In her eyes, a little bit of life. Just a bit of nostril work. I think that's looking quite nice. And then the only other thing I would say is probably just a little bit of highlight on a cheekbones, a little bit of blusher, which I think is probably around about there. I think probably. There we go. Let's blend that in a little. There we go. How's that looking? Is that looking like a nice rosy cheek compared to the other side? More pigment. I'm going to squeeze it gently, don't want to get too much on there. Right, let's just put that on there. It's not too bad, I think. Maybe just a little bit more on there. I got up this morning, I didn't realise I'd be doing a makeover. I'll be on that TV programme Glow next. Right, well I think it is maybe just a bit top of her eyes. Just bringing out the delicate features without trying to make her look like Coco the Clown. I think I'm about that really. I don't know what else I can do. Those lips a bit more juicy. There we go. There we go. Let's just lay her down there for a second and just admire his work. Make sure we've done all we want to do. The gown, the robe's looking very nice. It's picked up most of the eye spots on that. Hair looking very nice. A tiara, I suppose I'd want to call that, at the top's looking very nice. Face, yeah, might just need a rub over, I think, just to see what we can do. Rubbed in the same as we're doing with the fingers. There we go. I think that's quite nice. I would call that done. A relatively quick makeover. And I think we've improved the looks, and thank you for joining me. We're going to find something else that I think is worth showing you and worth upcycling, making look pretty, doing a patina on. I'll see you again. Thanks for watching. Bye.